Welcome. Welcome to the Juneau UU Fellowship. Thank you to all of you who pitched in getting the service ready this morning. And it is also a moment to share in gratitude all that Kim Kiefer does. So she often gets here 15, 20 minutes before the hour to do that. So I want to extend my thanks to her for often an invisible and thankless task.
And Martha Murray as well.
And Martha Murray. Is Martha Murray in the house? Yeah, maybe on Zoom. Oh, miss you, Martha. All right. It's actually a beautiful thing when lay leaders have to step back and when ministers have to step back, because then a congregation really sees what they all own. And so I think today was actually a wonderful thing for us to be starting later. But thank you for your patience. So here we are, JUUF. It has been a joy to get to know you better this week. And I can go back to my colleagues that I spoke with and say, you were right. These are a fantastic group of people. And I see why you love them and that they send their fond and warm regards. And that comes from Sarah and Tandy and Crystal. So here at the Juneau UU Fellowship, no matter your age, no matter your strengths, your beliefs, lack of beliefs, no matter whom you love or whom you live with, if you're the congregational founder or a first-time visitor, we welcome you here into this community. The mission of the Juneau Unitarian Universalist Fellowship is to be a spiritual home for all people who are engaged in a search for truth and meaning. We are glad that you're here. Announcements. Any announcements from our Zoom congregants?
Yes, hi, this is Honesty Zond. I announced a couple weeks ago, and I want to give one more opportunity. I am going to be doing a book group, hosting a book group, not reading like, scholarly texts. We'll be reading something fun that we all choose together. Please contact me, or someone on the board can send you my way if you are interested. I figure we'll probably meet in the next week or two on Zoom to discuss what we want to read, and then from there we can figure out what schedule we want to read at. I presume we'll be pretty open to reading different kinds of things, so we can discuss what we're interested in. We'll try to find something everyone enjoys, so please let me know. Also, eventually going to be doing a online party game night. So if anyone is interested in that idea or finds that appealing, Jackbox games, if you've ever heard of them, let me know. We'll also try to get that working. Right now, I have a bad cold, so I may not be as active organizing those, but I still want to get those started.
Thanks, Honesty. I'm Leslie. I'm the board president, and I just wanted to welcome everybody and thank you for coming. Thank you, Reverend Teri, for your wonderful week of activities. We have a potluck after today's service, so please stay and enjoy with that. We also have a board meeting today at 1:30 at Downtown Library. So if you want to come join, that'd be great. Next week, October 1st, is going to be our the student rabbi from this congregation, Sukkot Shalom, is going to be doing the service. I don't know what this topic is yet, but we'll put out an email at the end of the week. Last thing I wanted to say was that we are in the process of updating our website, juuf.org. So if you wanted to check it out and look at it, and if you had any ideas or feedback, can you give it directly to Kathy Holm? She's one of our board members, and your email. HomeKathy@yahoo.com. Home Kathy, no dot or anything. Nope. Home Kathy at Yahoo. Okay, so we'll be putting that in an email too.
Thank you, everyone. And I want to put a plug in for your social and fellowship activities. That's how you bring new folks into the church. Rarely do people come into church alone. They come with a friend. It's people who've been churched or moving from another UU church that might show up at your door. But the social activities or other things you do as a community, bringing someone along, that's one of your strategies. Into the spirit of worship. Words for chalice lighting come from my colleague Ian Rudell. Come one, come all. Come one, come all. Come with your missing pieces and your extra screws. Come with your hard edges and your soft spots. Come with your bowed heads and upright spines. Come all you flamboyant and drab, verbose and quiet, fidgeting and lethargic. All of you with large vision and tender hearts. All of you with small courage and tender fears. Bring your lisp and your stutter and your song. Bring your gravel and your drawl and your lift. Bring your anger. Bring your joy and bring your righteous indignation. Misfits and conformists and everyone in between. Come into this space and be welcome. Bring who you are. Bring where you've traveled. Bring what you long for, and let us worship together. Our opening hymn this morning is 188. Come, come, whoever you are. Now, Zoom folks, I need to move around while I do this. So I won't be quite on your screen, but I'm right here and you're also in my heart. Come, come, whoever, wonder, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no care of the law of despair. Come, yet and come. Come, come, ours is no care of despair. Come, yet and come. Come, come, wherever you are. Come, worship, lover of living, ours is no care of despair. Come, get come. Right, I just had an idea, y'all. If I get to come back, we're going to meet an hour early and do a hymn sing and warm up and sing together and be ready to rock and roll during the service. Our meditation, The Low Road by Marge Pursty. And this is a reading in our hymnal. What can they do to you? Whatever they want. They can set you up, they can bust you, they can break your fingers, they can burn your brain with electricity, blur you with drugs till you can't talk, can't remember. They can take your child, wall up your lover. They can do anything you can't stop them from doing. How can you stop them? Alone you can fight, you can refuse, you can take what revenge you can, but they roll over you. But two people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. A snake dancing file can break a cordon. An army can meet an army. Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration. 100 fill a hall. 1,000, you've got solidarity in your own newsletter. 10,000 power in your own paper. 100,000 your own media. 10 million your own country. It goes on one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again and they said no. It starts when you say we and you know who you mean. And each day you mean one more. We come together in religious community, holding our hearts and our doors always open for one more. And part of showing up fully for ourselves and for one another is to be heard and to hear one another into speech, to share the challenges and the joys, the sorrows, the concerns. A burden shared is made much lighter. A joy celebrated by many becomes much fuller and richer. So into this space, I invite anyone with a joy or concern to share with the congregation. So please come forward as you feel so moved. I add a stone for Kim Kiefer, that her illness may be brief and pass with ease as swiftly as possible. And all of those in our community who are experiencing illness, there's a bug going around. And the broader community, we are all interconnected. And when we do better, we all do better. And when we have challenges, we are stronger together. I add a final stone for those unspoken joys and sorrows that remain in the silence of our own hearts. Our responsive hymn is number 108, My Life Goes On. She was a little girl. She loved the outdoors. Really loved the outdoors. She loved the forest. She loved it so much she would get down on all fours and eat the forest floor. I have a feeling there may be many such children in Juneau. And every year, her whole family would spend the summer in the tall, dense, dark green forests of British Columbia. I don't need to describe that landscape to you. The family had a beloved and curious beagle named Jigs. One evening, Jigs runs off into the woods. All of a sudden, they hear barking and yelping. Jigs is in trouble. The whole family chases after Jigs. Parents, uncles, aunts, and cousins. The barking leads them to an outhouse. And there, at the bottom, 6 feet below ground, covered in the stuff that lands at the bottom of an outhouse, well, there was Jigs. They couldn't get him out, so they had to dig from the side of the pit. So they dug and dug with Jigs yelping and barking at them, longingly waiting. And in the midst of the drama, the girl notices what's under the soil. Roots upon roots upon roots, and a thick, crazy tangle is a mat of intertwined, exposed roots. It was a whole other world. It was magic. They got Jigs out with no small amount of yelping, yelling, and barking, and they threw him in the lake. But she never forgot that night when she could see underground, a forest under the forest. 30 years later, Suzanne Simard became a forestry professor at the University of British Columbia, and it's her job to track new plantations after a clear cut. The general knowledge was that trees of different species are supposed to fight each other for sunshine, push each other for the light. But she notices something curious. She notices a birch next to a Douglas fir tree, and when one is removed, the other didn't do so well, and then it died. Then she remembered jigs in the underground forest from 30 years before. So she designed an experiment. It turns out that all trees of different species are sharing their food underground. From one tree to another tree 30 feet away to a third tree and on and on. One tree was connected to 47 other trees all around it. The researchers mapped the network. The trees with the biggest and oldest were the most highly connected. They were the hubs in the network. It was a crazy, cool, incredible communications network that looks a whole lot like an airline flight map. You've got like, what, Southwest, Denver, and you've got Alaskan Airlines in Seattle. So when we look at a forest, we think of the trees as individuals, standing next to each other that are together, but they are linked. They are linked in a network that is called, and I kid you not, the Wood Wide Web. We all know that roots extend far and wide, whether here in the forest of Juneau or even in the city under pavement, Earth remembers. You can see the roots pushing up through the sidewalk. But the trees are connected even more closely than that. With a magnifying glass, you can see white threads attached to the roots. Now, these white threads are smaller than an eyelash. They seem inconsequential, but researchers find these threads are in the soil everywhere. And in just a pinch of dirt, there are 7 miles of threads. 7 miles, that's like almost to Ock Bay, right? It's a lot. It turns out the white threads, as you all may know, are a fungus. With more powerful magnification, scientists could see the threads weren't just threads. They are hollow, they are tubes, like the underground system in London. Why? The fungus has something the tree needs. The tree has something the fungus needs. They need one another. When trees breathe, they spit out the oxygen and keep the carbon. I pretty much thought that was the end of the story. But trees can't grow tall only with carbon. They'd be about a foot tall like a floppy tulip. Trees need minerals from the soil. Phosphorus, magnesium, copper, calcium, nitrogen. These are all key in DNA. The roots aren't drying up the waters and minerals all by themselves. The fungus tubes are doing it. In return, the tree gives the fungus sugar to help their fungi bodies grow. Trees can't get the minerals, so the fungi provides them. The fungi can't photosynthesize, so the tree provides the sugar from photosynthesis. This neat little trading system occurs in the space between root and fungus. They exchange sugar and minerals. Now, this seems like a very symbiotic, simple relationship, quid pro quo. It's far, far more amazing than that. It's not just symbiosis, which would be amazing enough. It is a network which, for lack of a better word, and just take the leap with me here, it has its own intelligence. In this network, the trees give 20 to 80% of their sugars to the microbial community. If a tree has a lot of sugar, it puts it in the fungi. And when times are bad, the fungi give the sugars back. Trees give each other loans seasonally. Oh. The trees can also give warning signals. A tree will cry out in a chemical way if it's injured. For example, if one tree experiences a beetle infestation, it sends a chemical message to neighboring trees to start producing chemicals in their leaves that taste bad, so the beetles won't eat them. They go to the trees that are new to the forest. They go to the newcomers. They go to the trees that are more likely to survive global warming. It's as if the tree is thinking ahead to the needs of the whole forest. A dying Douglas fir will send carbon to a ponderosa pine. The forest has a kind of intelligence beyond a single species. is akin to a nervous system, as if the whole forest is almost an organism itself, each tree a cell in a larger body. This story came from NPR's Radio Lab, From Tree to Shining Tree. I encourage you to take a listen. And here we are, a fellowship that pledges to help one another with talent, treasure, time. Not just a group of individuals, but a people seeking to make a community. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we pride ourselves that we are free from creeds, but we could be religiously free by ourselves on Sunday mornings with the paper. That's not very hard. It's much harder to do that together. It's not what we believe, but how we commit to being together. That's the bedrock of being a Unitarian Universalist community. We are covenantal, not creedal. And it's like the underground system of the fungi tubes. The world asks us again and again, what do I want? Who am I? So much of our identity as UUs and how we've promoted our tradition is about the individual's belief and journeys. But our religion asks the bigger question that I think is much more impactful. Whose am I? These are two very different questions, and how we answer them will lead to two very different lives and two very different congregations. Our culture teaches us that to be human is to be individual, self-defined, self-determined, and independent, that our individual beliefs are the primary importance in religion. But we are invited to a much greater network of mutuality, like the true forest under the forest. Being a human comes down to the commitments we make to and with one another. A colleague of mine had his wallet stolen, his credit cards and cash were taken. They belonged to him. But it was the picture of his daughter in the wallet that belonged with him. Ultimately, there is no identity outside of relationship. Like the trees can't survive without their relationships, we cannot be a person by ourselves. Quaker teacher Douglas Sear asks this: who needs you? Who loves you? To whom are you accountable? To whom do you answer? Whose life is altered by your choices? With whose life, whose lives is your own all bound up inextricably in obvious or invisible ways? Now extrapolate those questions from our individual tree selves to our intertwined network as a religious community. So, whose are we? Whose are you as a fellowship? Who needs this fellowship? Who loves this fellowship? To whom is this fellowship accountable? And whose lives may be altered by the choices of this fellowship? Sure, we need one another here in this room and in this Zoom room. But those of us who are already here already love the fellowship, or you wouldn't be here. Both of those things are also true in the social club. So are we as a Unitarian Universalist fellowship? What if we belong to the newcomer? What if we belong to people who haven't yet walked through our door because they won't unless we go to them first on their terms? Belong to people who require us to change? What if we belong to people who require us to get pretty uncomfortable? What if we belong to Juneau, Alaska, Unitarian Universalism? The word hospitality in the New Testament comes from two Greek words, philos and xenia, the love of the stranger. In the ancient world, hospitality was a matter of life and death in that desert region. It was not about a snack and some entertainment or a fancy cake versus one out of the box. It was a sacred expectation and commitment. It was literally a matter of life and death. I've heard it said that the heart of hospitality is when people leave your home, they should feel better about themselves, not better about you. To be truly welcoming as a fellowship is, at least in part, to ensure that every person who enters this room will leave feeling better about themselves. Not better about us, not better about the fellowship, not better about me. Not that we feel better about ourselves because they sat with us, but that they will leave feeling better about themselves. We want to be welcoming, but too often we only want to be welcoming on our own terms, in the way we want to be welcomed. You're welcome here if you like the things we like, if you like the way we do them, and if you like getting news updates the way we do, and if your idea of worship is largely to sit still and quietly. Though our hearts are in the right place, our good intentions may be very different than the impacts. And this is true across all of our UU churches. If we advertise that small groups are open to all, but the newcomer comes and feels left out because everyone else is talking amongst themselves, it actually wasn't an open group. The larger question is this: are we going to be the people socially that we say we are theologically? I'm far less interested with the question about what do we believe and who are we. The idea that religion is primarily a matter of belief and choice is historically new and specific to our subculture of liberal religious people. That's not the case for most people in our country, nor most people on our planet. I want to know whose are we? When we answer that question, we are invited into something much, much bigger. The trees, young and old, of different size, shape, species, are part of a vast network more wondrous than we know. But we can be that way too, when we hold our aspirations in our hearts and can unflinchingly face our shortcomings. It's how we are to be together that lets us be agile with change, gives us the courage to risk and to fail, to let go of control and even be surprised, and to let ourselves be changed. Single trees don't survive. Forests survive. Social circles, however warm and wonderful they may be, don't survive. Families survive. Fellowships and churches survive. In the forests of British Columbia, to the forest outside these windows, to the pillars holding up this house of worship, to the members of our families, our friends, our ancestors, and those that we follow, we are not our own. Whose are we? When we are for the other, we find out who we really are. And it starts when we say we, and we know who we mean. And each day, we mean one more. Number 123. Holly will lead us in the first verse, the Spirit of Life. Again, if you know the tune, I invite you to keep your hymnal close. Again, Marge Pearson. What we want to change, we curse and then pick up a tool. Bless whatever you can with eyes and hands and tongue. And if you can't bless it, get ready to make it new. May it be so, and amen. We'll close together with hymn 402, From You I Receive, To You I Give. You all know this one, I think.
you are here. Together we share, and from this we live. From you we see, to you are here. Together we share, and from this we live.
Thank you all. Have a blessed week, and I'll see you next month on Zoom.